It's DEW Time with Pastor Steph.
Good morning, good morning, good morning. Rise and shine. You're on with this DEW Time with Pastor Steph. How are you this morning? That's what I like to hear. That's what I like to hear. For this is the day the Lord has made. Let us rejoice and be glad in it. So, where were you yesterday? Oh. Yesterday was some kind of conversation as we started off talking about the man who was sucked into the MRI machine and lost his life. So the story goes, out here in Long Island, New York, there was a woman who had to get an MRI. And when I suppose she was finished, she requested that her husband come and assist her in getting up. Well, the technician escorted the husband into the MRI room where the wife was. And if anyone knows anything about MRI machines, they continue to run. Not just when someone's in it, but it just runs. It's just on. And when it's on, it is a super magnetic field. So when you go for an MRI, you have been, told that you cannot have any metal objects on you at all. No piercings, no regular earrings, no jewelry, watches, bracelets, rings, because of the heavy magnet. Well, the technician did not check to see if the husband was wearing any jewelry at all. And unfortunately, he was wearing a very large chain. As a matter of fact, they say that the chain was about 20 pounds around his neck. And unfortunately, the magnetic effect of the MRI machine sucked him in so powerfully that he lost his life. And that sparked a conversation of many opinions. There was a concern of, well, if she needed help to get up off the machine and she wasn't comfortable with someone else helping her, if she had a gown on, and maybe, she didn't feel comfortable with someone helping her, if, she had back problems or things like that, or if she was in a great deal of pain and, things like that, which is why she called her husband in to assist her. And unfortunately, the husband wasn't vetted. And I use the word vetted, meaning that they cleared the patient to actually go in. So in other words, they made sure she had no jewelry on. But upon escorting the husband in to aid her, the husband wasn't cleared. And now the MRI office is trying to say that, well, he knew he had this jewelry on because they have commented about this chain before. And so, of course, they're pointing the finger. Well, unfortunately, we don't see how the company is not going to be liable. It is your responsibility to ensure that anyone who walks into that area does not have on any jewelry. Now, a lot of stuff came out yesterday. That's what I said. You got to go back and listen, and weigh in. We can't get your weigh in right now because that was yesterday's show, but the weigh in is important, and there's a lot of points that need to be made. And one of the things is we need to be careful of all the decisions that we make. Now, I listen, I can't say whether, I would have felt better with my husband, coming in there. Maybe, she was a lot, from what I understand, she was supposedly a little heavier, and maybe she felt her husband could best, service her with helping her get up off the table. Well, unfortunately, you weren't thinking about the fact that, there was a chain around his neck, a chain of heavy weight, which makes the magnetic effect even worse than if you had, let's say, a thin gold rope around your neck. You were not thinking about that. And a lot, no, you probably weren't thinking about that because that ain't your job. But we you know what, when we're making these kind of requests, we need to think about a lot of things, because how many times have you caught things that the office didn't catch? We've all been there. I don't care whether it was the mechanic, the hairdresser, the barbershop. I don't care what it was. There's been a time for all of us where we've been like, wait a minute. And they're like, oh, okay. So you know what? The thought process wasn't completed by anybody, not even by him. And, there was a statement, well, if that's what he wanted to wear, let him wear. That's not the point. That's not the point. The point is we're not ragging on him for wearing what he's wearing, because Shantice talked about, and I mentioned, someone that age wearing something so large and gaudy. And you know what? It may not have been accepted what was said, but that may have saved his life. I'm sorry. When we get to be a certain age, some things we just need to let go. Yes, we can wear whatever we want from head to toe, as long as it's fine between us and God. However, there are things that, you can't help but forget. I'm sorry, let me rephrase that. You can't help but remember. So if that was your thing, to wear this, then that should have been something that maybe you could have remembered. And I'm not blaming him. But what I'm saying is all these little things in life, and that's what I want to talk about. All these little things in life help us, aid us in making decisions. And we all make mistakes. We all have sinned and fallen short of the glory of God. None of us are perfect, but we need to stay in prayer with the Lord, stay in close relationship with the Lord. And there are times when God will help us remember just that one little thing. And would it have helped in this situation? Yeah. And I'm not saying he didn't pray. So please do not start typing in chat room, Pastor Steph, who said he didn't pray. That I really hope that you all are getting what I'm saying. This was a tragedy. Pastor KL brought up something yesterday that was really interesting. And he said, you know what? Because maybe you didn't wait, or because maybe you didn't let the people do their job, now you go home with no husband. Very sad. This is a tragedy. I don't care what side of the fence you're on. I don't care what age what age range, what your gender is, where you come from, how rich or poor you are. Tragedy. It was tragic accident. But when you look back, they say hindsight is 20/20. When you look back, you can literally see all the little holes that were filled in. There were holes mainly by the technician. They're going down for this one, because ultimately they are held responsible. But there were holes by the players as well. And you know what? If that extra prayer, if that extra conversation with the Lord will help us to get rid of one hole that we may, not think of, then hand in that extra prayer. Hit with your partners, with your family members. I've been very ill over the last few years. And as a matter of fact, it ain't been a few. It's been since 2009, but 2011, extremely consistently. And there are many things that, especially Shanti, and I have to consistently say to her, just step back a minute. Just step back. Let these people do their job. Let them take the responsibility. I understand that you look in and you don't like the way they're doing things, and you feel like you can do it better. I get it. And it's all in love. But boundaries. And boundaries come into play with all of us as the patient or the lead person, as a company. So if you're doing your job, make sure you, because this could be very costly if you don't. Your loved ones are getting serviced. Keep your eye open. Keep your eye open for your own safety, because this can end up in a very tragic result. So again, as I always say, prayers up to the family. This has got to be heartbreaking. How do you move forward? Just to say, hey, well, this was her fault, his fault, that one's fault. Very easy to say that. But if you look at this particular situation, again, there are just holes everywhere. So we're going to lift up this family in prayer, trusting that God will do some major healing. And we are going to definitely be on the lookout. Keep our eyes and ears open a little differently. And that's what I'm hoping comes from this story, where we're learning to just, again, dot every I, cross every T, and keep some things from going down. All right? That's how we spent our Let's Talk About It Tuesday, Church Folk Day. All right. Well, today is Wow Wednesday, everybody. We've made it through the middle and to the middle of the week. Well, it's about time to get this started. We got our girl Vivian coming up to give us our socially conscious segment. So I'm semi-off today. Well, go ahead and get that healthy breakfast. Go ahead and tell somebody that it's due time with Pastor Steph is on. And whatever you do, don't go anywhere, because we will be right back.
Stopping between two trucks is a deadly mistake. If one rear-ends you, you'll be crushed with nowhere to escape. The footage shows just how quickly a car can get sandwiched between heavy vehicles, turning a simple stop into a catastrophe. Always leave enough space to maneuver, especially near large trucks. Road safety isn't just about speed.
Good morning, and good morning again. Welcome back to It's Due Time with Pastor Steph. And it is Wow Wednesday. God has brought us safely to this point in the week. And before the end of the show, I want to make sure I shout out the Breaking the Yoke Women's Conference official gear. I don't know. Merchandise. There you go. Merchandise. They're $30. And if you purchased a ticket, it's $25. So make sure you hit us up. Hit that chat room so that we can know that you're interested in purchasing a shirt. And we would love to service you. Well, it's about that time. Our girl Vivian is up with her socially conscious segment. Good morning, Viv.
Good morning. Happy Wow Wednesday. How are you, Pastor Steph?
I am well, thank you, Vivian. How are you?
I'm doing well, thank you.
Good. All righty. Wait, Viv, I didn't give out shout outs. You got to give me 1 second to do my shout outs, okay? So
okay.
Please bear with me. All righty. If you're in the room, Pastor Steph needs to know because I want to say good morning. Well, now it's me and Vivian saying good morning. She's been thrown up into the mix this morning because she can't be in the screen and not say good morning. Well, a hearty good morning to Terrence. Hey, Terrence. Good morning. Thank you so much for joining us. That's your girl, Viv, in the background. Viv, you should be doing this.
I don't want no parts in that foolishness.
Only for Terrence, Viv. Only for Terrence. Oh, we got our girl Ketty in the room. Good morning, Ketty. Thank you so much for joining us. And we got our Miss Charlene. Good morning, Miss Charlene. How are you?
I can't believe I missed her at the conference.
Yes. We were talking Miss Charlene, and she was like, Miss Charlene was there. I was like, yeah, I'm sorry. I thought you met her. I'm sorry. But you know what? We're going to have another chance, God spares, to connect person to person. So, we're just waiting for that next opportunity. And wait, Terrence says she don't want no smoke, right, V? Oh my goodness gracious. We can't finish our good morning without saying good morning. Oh, we got to say good morning to Serge. Hey, Serge. Good morning. We cannot continue without saying good morning to our ladies who hold it down in the background. We would not have a youth. Hey, Anika, good morning. And our girl, Shantice. Good morning, Shantice. Thank you so much for joining us. All right. Alrighty. Thank you, Vivian, for allowing me to go backwards. What you got for us today?
Can you hear me? All right. All right. Today on Socially Conscious, we are starting off with the saddest. They say New York City's animal shelters are officially overwhelmed. Excuse me. They're saying with over 1,000 pets in the system, some are even being kept in hallways and crates. The biggest reason being housing instability. 1 in 3 people are surrendering their pets. They're saying it's because they're moving and cannot afford rent and to keep their pets. The city has now paused pet surrenders and is urging people to explore other options. They're saying to ask family and friends if they can keep your animal or check out tips online to help keep your pets. Most importantly, they're calling on the public to adopt and help free up space. They say if you've ever considered expanding your family in the form of a new pet, now's the time to adopt. So who knew that housing insecurity would be the reason for the pet shelters being overcrowded with these surrendered animals? Now, while the city shelters are packed with pets being surrendered due to rising rent and housing insecurity, our next story talks about another unfortunate record-breaking number. They say home prices in New York City are hitting record highs, making the dream of home ownership feel even further out of reach for many people. So they're saying between April and June, the median home sale price in New York City hit a jaw-dropping $799,000, the highest ever recorded, according to Property Shark. That's a 4% jump from last year. And of course, Manhattan is taking the lead in pricing. They're saying places like Hudson Yards top the charts with homes nearing $6 million. Tribeca saw a major leap. Dumbo saw a major leap. That's out in Brooklyn. So we're breaking records out here with these high prices for homes. With high prices skyrocketing and rent pushing people to surrender their pets, the city is finally taking steps to create more affordable housing. And this might be, I guess it can be considered a update because we definitely talked about this before. They're talking about the accessory dwelling units, tiny homes and things like that. They're one step closer to becoming a reality in New York City. These small units are around 800 square feet. They could be a standalone home in your backyard. It could be your basement, or it could be your attic conversions. From 1 to 2 family properties, the city says they could bring in up to 80,000 new housing units without changing the skyline, offering a much-needed boost in affordable options. Low or even zero interest loans may help homeowners build these accessory dwelling units on their current properties. And of course, there's pushback over safety and neighborhood aesthetics, especially after past flooding tragedies. But new rules, including water sensors, sprinklers, and emergency exits, are making this look more and more doable out in New York City. A public hearing is set for August 18th to finalize these options. And for many, this could mean a good thing for them, especially with this housing crisis going on. Now, lastly, we have a listener submitted story of Wendy Tolbert, a Chicago mother who has been charged with first-degree murder, attempted murder, and arson after allegedly stabbing her 3 children and then setting her home on fire. They're saying her 4-year-old son was tragically stabbed after he's tragically died after being stabbed 36 times. She then turned the knife onto her 13-year-old son, her 10-year-old son, and 13-year-old daughter. So the 13-year-old is in the hospital in critical condition, and the 10-year-old has been released. Prosecutors say that Tolbert told authorities she believed her children were possessed by the devil. A court-ordered evaluation revealed that she suffered from schizophrenia and cancer. During the investigation, the surviving 13-year-old son heartbreakingly told his father he wished that his dad had been there, saying his mom wouldn't have done this if he was there because, quote, "you're stronger than her," end quote. That heartbreaking statement has now have many people asking, why were the children even with their mother and not their father? While those custody details have not been publicly clarified, the case is raising serious questions about warning signs, parental rights, and mental health oversight. So this mom is currently being held without bond and will undergo full mental and physical evaluations. Her next court date is scheduled for Monday, July 7th, or it was scheduled for Monday, July 7th, and we're waiting to find out the details on that story. And now we have our wow story of the week. We're going to go with some fantastic news after all this sad news that we just had to report. They're saying out in Baltimore, they have experienced their lowest number of homicides ever recorded in the first half of 2025. According to city officials, this represents a significant decrease compared to previous years, including a 22.7% drop compared to the first half of 2024. They're saying specifically there were only 68 homicides through June, which is the fewest in over 50 years, according to a news release. This is a 22.7% decrease compared to last year. This is they're also saying there was a 62% decrease compared to the same time period 3 years ago. And Mayor Brandon Scott emphasized that this progress is a result of comprehensive, evidence-based public safety strategy and ongoing partnerships. The city is also seeing decreases in other violent crimes like non-fatal shootings, auto thefts, robberies, arsons, and carjackings. So congratulations to Baltimore and their mayor for breaking records in a positive way and seeing such a drastic decrease in their crimes and homicides. But this has been Vivian with Socially Conscious, giving you the news that we are following. And remember, if you have any wild stories you would like to submit, please feel free to direct message me on Facebook. My username there is Vivian BM, and come back every Wednesday to find out if your story has been chosen. Thank you, as always, to our loyal viewers, and thank you, Pastor Steph.
Thank you, Vivian. Thank you. Whoa, we got some stories to talk about. Let's see if we got any comments in the chat room before we start. Tara says, wow, if those kids make it, the trauma is going to be real hard. That's right. We're definitely anticipating some major trauma. Okay, let's get our ladies on. Let's start with our lady Tamika. Good morning, Tamika.
Good morning. Happy Wow Wednesday to you. How are you?
Good morning. Happy Wow Wednesday to you as well. I'm well, thank you. How are you?
I'm doing well, thank you.
That's good. And we got our girl Shantice in the mix. Good morning, Shantice.
Good morning.
Good morning.
How are you, ladies?
Good morning. Well, thank you. How are you?
I'm fine, thank you.
That's good. Well, before we start, I promised Miss Grace that I would say good morning to her. So good morning, Miss Grace. Thank you so much for joining us this morning. And we got some stuff to talk about, ladies. Well, the New York City animal shelters are overwhelmed. Over 1,000 pets in the system are being kept in hallways. It's gotten so large and out of control. And, we don't think about the domino effect of why and how, these animals get to these shelters. But the housing situation, these people, losing housing and they can't afford to keep their pets. They may not have family or friends to take the pets. And they're looking for the public to now begin adopting. If you've ever considered adopting, please do so now. Lady Tamika, what are we talking about here?
I think it's, that's sad, that we have that much of an issue with our animals. You purchased an animal or you went to a place to get an animal, and now, you can't keep your animal. And so, not just me, but other people are doing the same thing, and it overwhelms the system to that degree that I even saw something, an advertisement in the news that requested people to, any way that you can, if you can open up your home to adopt a pet, to do so, and that's a hardship. We also know that they don't verbalize it, but when animals have been in a place like that so long, they eventually euthanize them without um, telling us, and so um, my heart goes out. I'm not a pet lover in any way, shape, or form. I like dogs, but I've never had a pet of my own, so I don't know that. Um, but for those that can open their homes, if you can find the availability, then I suggest you do so.
Okay. Shantice,
Yes.
the shelters are overwhelmed, even in the animal shelters, not just the for homeless people.
Ooh, I mean, it's a little, I guess, surprising considering how many people are walking around here with these emotional pets now. Like while they're overwhelmed in the animal shelter. Never, my mind never goes to the animals. It's always, of course, to the human shelters, and we see them putting up so many now, and it's like they're up and then they're full as soon as they go up. But yeah, that's really shocking to me, because like everywhere you go now, there, especially dogs, everywhere you go, there are dogs everywhere. So that's kind of shocking.
Okay. Viv, the dog lover.
Yeah, it's unfortunate to hear that the shelters are overpopulated, especially for the reason that people are facing, housing insecurity. So that's definitely a sad thing. That it's not just because people just don't want these pets; it's because they can't afford rent and basically another mouth to feed. So it's definitely sad. Something needs to be done. Something needs to be done with these rent prices, to see that it's touching animal shelters, because it's just getting so ridiculously high out here. It's sad.
Okay. Again, the domino effect. We're not, a lot of times we miss that. The long-term issues of, people are homeless. And not only that, we've covered, I think it was you, Vivian, who did on Socially Conscious, we talked about it a couple of times, the domestic violence, where people, women stay because they have no place for their animals to go. So now we're talking dual reasons why. You said another mouth to feed, which is true. And also, these animals need care. They need to get shots. They get sick. They have to go to the vet. And if you are barely making it yourself, if you can hardly pay for your own medical expenses, then it becomes harder to care for an animal, a pet. And it's very difficult to watch your pet get sick and you can't, care for it properly. And it has to be a very difficult decision to make, to give these animals, your loved one, to the shelter. And to the degree where Vivian said they're in hallways and, what else did you say, Viv? Hallways and what?
They're being kept in hallways and crates instead of, how they normally kept.
Crates. Right. I couldn't think of the second thing. Crates. Thank you. Can you imagine, going through that, even as an animal, when you have previously been loved and cared for. So, it is sad. And, when greed from the economy, starts spilling over all into the home, then, something's really, really, really got to be done, which takes us right into our Home ownership prices, $800,000. The numbers have reached to here in New York City. We're not even talking about in the suburbs necessarily. And this is the highest ever. They say a 4% jump. And Manhattan is taking the lead. Surprise, surprise. Dumbo and Tribeca are at the top. And they're taking steps to make more affordable housing. Shatis, $800,000 to own a home in New York City.
Not surprising at all, because there have been homes in my neighborhood where their asking price starts at $600,000, and I've gone in to look at the space, and I'm like, sir, for this closet, $600,000. Y'all don't even have a separate living room from the dining room, but yet you're charging $600,000. They do no work on these homes, so whoever is purchasing the home still has to spend money to fix the home up. God forbid I want some decent looking front steps, because all they do is smack some paint. It look like they just take the paint can, open it up, toss it in there, and wherever paint land is where it land. And they've considered themselves to have painted the steps. It's not surprising to hear $800,000. They said that was in Manhattan. That was the price for Manhattan, or Manhattan has the highest pricing.
Manhattan has the highest prices.
Manhattan has the highest. Oh, okay, well, I'd say because my neighborhood is starting at $600,000. It's not surprising at all. And I'm watching how they're trying to capitalize on the land. So before they start building on the land, if you see it, it's so much space, so much land, all this land. So let's say the land, you would say to yourself, okay, they could build about maybe 3, maybe 4 nice size homes where it could be a nice size living room, kitchen, dining room, backyard. The bedrooms are nice size. But what they'll do is they'll build 20 homes on that same piece of land and charge $800,000 each to maximize on the payments. And it's like, you got people living on top of each other. So in one borough, maybe more buildings, another borough, maybe more homes. But if everyone is still living on top of each other anyway, what's the difference?
Right.
So they're really going to have to figure something out, because no one is making that type of money anymore.
Right.
People can barely afford to live at home. People are still struggling, and they still live with their mother. Who can realistically move out and, pay for these homes like that? That's crazy.
Right. Vivian, what do you think of these astronomical New York City prices?
I can't stand New York City. And like Shanti said, it's never worth the money they're asking for. I've been going into these open houses. If I see one, I'll just, pop in there. And it's so small. Like, they think that because they put some marble flooring down or some oak cabinets and stuff like that, that it justifies them charging $700,000 for this closet of a house. And it doesn't. And like Shanti said, they just do the bare minimum when it comes to fixing up these places. And then they charge you an arm and a leg. It's just disgusting how they're doing people out here.
Wow. Tamika.
So New York is one of those places where those who don't live here, want to visit, and I want to be in New York, and they are completely clueless as to what we deal with on a daily basis. If I can go to New York, I can such and such, and things have definitely changed. You used to be able to make a whole lot of money, and be able to handle it, but everybody's going up. Mortgages are going up. Rent, you figure, I'm safe at paying rent. No, you're not, because that's going up. Mortgage is going up, and everything around us, the taxes. Trying to find a property that doesn't have high taxes in New York is ridiculous. Going to an area like Long Island, you figure, the properties are bigger. Yeah, but you're paying, out of the pocket with taxes.
Yeah, right.
And you get hit everywhere that you look. No wonder that, now You've got families. You got generations of family. You know, grandma, child, grandchild, cousins. You got all kinds of family members, living, all kinds of dynamics to save resources. You got people who are, not quite married or trying to, just to be able to try and save resources. It's no wonder that now, the animal shelters are overwhelmed because, hey, we got mouths to feed, in addition to an animal. Okay, so we'll go with the least resistance and put the dog back in the shelter. Everybody's trying to make sure that they can ensure that they can find it. We even talk about the bridges and tunnels. Congestion pricing. Everything around you is going up, and so it makes it difficult for you to be able to suffice. So you try to find ways, to make that work.
Yeah, this is crazy.
Not only that, Pastor Steph, they're showing these homes and they're not finished being done. I've been to 2 open houses and the basement ain't done. I'm like, well, how are you showing the house for $600,000-$700,000? So I'm in here looking at an incomplete home where you want the complete down payment. How does that work? It's like they're aiming for people.
I don't know what you're gonna come up with.
Exactly. I already have to thoroughly examine what you claim is done. And now I'm like, there's the basement. Can I see it? Oh, it's not finished yet. What? So I'm supposed to just guess or take your word for it that if I was to say I'll take it, it would be done and properly? No.
Or, back in the day, you used to get a studio apartment. Now it's a studio house. Everything is one room.
Yes. That's what I'm saying. And they be selling these homes for $600,000. I'm like, but how you doing that? And there's nothing. The only thing that can separate the living room from the kitchen is if you put a couch in between and make your back face the stove. Like, I don't understand how this is supposed to work. Yeah,
and they try to justify it because now they're giving the idea. I went to one open house and they had this tiny basement, and they're like, "Well, you could rent the basement." But who's living in this
that's
closet
always
the animals in the
that's
shelter.
right. That's always their selling point.
Yes.
And in addition
that's
to
always
that,
their selling point.
You don't have a light switch, so I gotta buy a lamp to put in the socket to even have light in the room.
It is crazy. It is crazy. Serge says these prices are selling things like food, clothes, homes, and etc. increase every month, and we don't see the increase in our checks. Our checks stay the same for years, and it doesn't match the economy. Absolutely, Serge. Says now I can't have a dog or a cat due to the fact that I can't afford them to feed them. Just taking care of them is impossible unless I'm sure I have organized my bills together to pay for things they need. Absolutely. Again, it's the domino effect. Now, the other day, I opened up my mortgage statement online. They allowed us now to, I don't know what happened, but they're starting all over again with you have to set up an online account. And when you open it up, it gives you the approximate value of your home. It gives you like your mortgage payment. It gives you, I think, the taxes for your home and some other miscellaneous stuff. When I looked over and saw what they had for the approximate value of, so they gave you 2 numbers. They gave you an approximate value for your home in the neighborhood. And then they gave you an approximate value of your home. I almost fell out the chair. I said, well, do they live where I live? Is they worth that kind of money? Was blown away. And the first thing I said, this is even before this conversation, and I said to myself, y'all need to stop. Anything to increase the value so that you get more. But anybody, I would, when I bought this home, it was nowhere near that price. At that time, it was logged as, when they built these homes, they were single homes. Or because people were breaking up the homes and putting the basement, made the basement an apartment, and the attic an apartment, and things like that. They got smart and they said, well, since people are doing it anyway, what they did was they increased it to 2-family homes, which meant that they could get more for taxes. So they know what they're doing. They know what they're doing. Any opportunity they get to increase the value of your home, now they charge you more taxes. Because when I glanced over at them taxes, because I didn't even want to look, I didn't even want to look. I was kind of looking out the side of my eye. I was like, Lord, I don't even want to know. Just let me just keep making my mortgage payments. They're going to take it anyway. I just don't even want to know. And then finally I looked over and I was just, y'all have got to be kidding me. Yeah, this here, when Vivian gave that story, I was like, that was just yesterday or the day before, either Monday or Tuesday. I just looked at that and I was blown away, because I'm telling you, Shantice and Vivian are talking about going around this neighborhood or New York City neighborhoods, looking at open houses and what they're seeing. I'm telling you, from the inside, that's what they are valuing the homes at. So if they're valuing the homes that much, then they're going to try to sell it for that much or even more. And I'm saying to myself, I would never buy a home at this time, because it's ridiculous. Not only that, but it's just like, I think it was Serge who said, who can afford it? Your income is not going up that high to be able to afford these prices. This is insane. So now we move over to this affordable housing. I would love to hear what you ladies got to say about this affordable housing. We did speak before, like Vivian said, how they're allowing you now. They're giving you loans to redo your basement. They're, again, making it legal to rent your basement, your backyard. They're allowing you to build on your land, because it's allowing more people to occupy the space we already have. And you can make money if that's what you choose to do. Or, again, like Shantice said, expand your family into your space. And Tamika said, let grandma and little man come on and live up in there, because where else these people gonna live? Vivian.
It seems like a good idea, but again, the space they're making available is not real living space. And then on top of that, if you were to go and take out a loan to properly turn your basement into a rentable basement, now you're going to have to charge enough money to cover the monthly payment of the loan and to make money off of your basement. So now you're going to have to charge $2,500 for this closet of a basement. So it seems like a good idea. But if you're looking to do that as a renter, then you're just going to have to be greedy about it. If you want to do it and you're giving it to a family member in need or something like that, maybe it might be a good idea. But if you're looking to profit off of this, you're going to have to charge crazy amounts of rent in order to really make any type of profit. So it's just, it's not really solving anything at the end of the day. Maybe it's opening for housing, but it's not really solving the problem that in general it's expensive to rent and buy. So
right. Tamika, is this an option, a viable option?
I'm just thinking of, okay, as a homeowner, I own a home, and I have had occasions where people, have had an issue, and, as a homeowner, I cringe, because I don't care whether it's a friend, a neighbor, someone that you've known for a long time, when you say yes to that option, there's all kinds of stuff that you don't even think about, whether it's, you came home and it was dirty before you left, and you come home and it's still dirty, and they are eating, bonbons and cookies and cake, and all of that is on the floor, and you waiting for them to clean, especially when it's family, and then sometimes family can say, well, I didn't ask, you help. So there's all of that, the frustration of having another person in your space, going through the process of, barring a wall or putting up a wall, and, the transition of you having a bigger space and now you have a smaller space, and you're still paying taxes, you're still paying, a mortgage or whatever it is, it becomes all the more complicated, whether it's family or whether it's a stranger. It takes a lot, and you've got to build tough skin. With family, you've got to draw lines, you've got to have boundaries, you've got to have guidelines, rules. There's all kinds of things that transition. Your money is still going to remain the same, but you have got to, transition everything to be able to allow someone else in, and I've seen people, little small basements, and I'm looking at somebody's apartment. That's your apartment? That's where you live? And you have this option, to share a kitchen and a bathroom.
Right.
So basically it's a room, but you're stating that it's an apartment, and I think that's a hardship for anybody. I've dealt with that one time. I lived in a room and I shared a bathroom in a basement, and I nearly lost my mind because people's habits are completely entirely different. Everybody has a different way of ruling. If you're like Shantice and I'm surprised that I survived. I made it. Thank the Lord.
Wow. Good points. Shantice.
I second everything the lady said. And we really gotta, it's all about really being strategic. It's a lot easier said than done to do this whole moving in with family. But sometimes it's safer to try to move in with the one you're trying to do, because
the one you're trying to what?
Like it's saying, well, we're dating, so now we're gonna move in. And then, it's like, no, you're not supposed to do that. But it's like family ain't no better half the time. Because a lot of the times, you're thinking because it's family, then you understand my plight, understand your plight. Okay, we're going in this together. We know each other's strengths and weaknesses, financially, whatever, this is what we're going to do. No. And with the mortgage and rent being what it is, I don't know too many family members I'll be willing to take this commitment with and go, because already it's a hostile situation with the number on paper. Now on top of that hostile situation, you got all other hostile situations because now everybody want to act up. Then you got way too many struggles at the same time. It's just too much. So it's a whole lot easier said than done. Them claiming, like, oh, well, you can just rent, sir or ma'am. Hello. Did you give this house to the first person who walked up in here? That means I have to sit and interview people. I got to go through references. I got to go through this and still hope that the person I choose doesn't make me want to pull a machete out on them. So it's just like, it's too much. At the end, they still need to figure out how they're going to decrease this. And I'm pretty sure there's a way. They just have to stop being so money hungry and figure it out so that they can now share it with the public. And I can guarantee you a lot of these homes will be flying off the market. But right now it's like they're asking for, remember that period of time where it was like they were just giving away homes and loans and all that, and then it was a huge market crash because no one could afford to pay it back. It's like you're asking for that to happen all over again. It's like, no, come on.
Yeah.
We got to do better.
Wow. Terrence says it's crazy because some houses you can't rent the basement out. Well, that's what they're talking about. Now they're talking about making it converting that into a legal rental, and they would give you a loan to make it rentable. So most times, here's the thing. Most times when it comes to renting a basement, the reason why it's not rentable is because you need two modes of egress. And anybody knows that pretty much once you have a basement, you only got one door. So
Right.
that's why they always stop you from renting a basement, because it's not safe. And again, they knew people were doing it anyway. So what did they do? They said, all right, we'll make it a two-family. They know people are renting these places. They're going around checking. But that's why these basements are not legal to rent out. Serge says, is affordable housing really affordable? That's where I was going, Serge. That's where I was going. The amount of space you get in these apartments is not enough for the prices they're asking for. We got to check in from our Pastor KL. Hey, Pastor KL. Anika says, greed is bringing down this country. Absolutely, Anika. Serge says, with affordable housing, you can't even get it because you can't be a low income. You have to have amounts close to 60,000 and up. So, and Anika says, so again, safety goes out the window, more taxes. So this is where I was going, Serge. That's exactly where I was going. You know, in the last, let's say 5 years, they've been claiming affordable housing. When you look at the criteria, first of all, the amount of money that you have to make, then again, the amount of money you must pay a month. Well, who constituted this affordable? That's not for a single parent and a child, or no. It is. When I look at the numbers, and I get pretty good money. I ain't gonna lie. I ain't rich, but I get decent money. Wouldn't even go into that because it drains you. And those are apartments. Just like Serge said, those are apartments. They're putting up these beautiful buildings. They're putting up, and they're going up everywhere. In all of the 5 boroughs, they are putting up these beautiful buildings, but it's not affordable. It is not affordable by far. Stop calling it affordable housing. Stop. You're not making it affordable for New Yorkers. Again, like Serge said earlier, you're increasing all of the rents, but you're not in the homes, but you're not increasing pays. Why? Because the company can only afford to pay you a certain amount of money. You know, people go in and they're like, I need a raise. Well, so does the company. You have to remember something. This entire economy is getting hit. That means your businesses down to your everyday people. But why do you think business companies are moving out of New York City? Because they can't afford it. They're relocating their companies because, hey, it's cheaper to rent space out in such and such a place. So now you're losing. So now you're increasing, and now it's killing everything and everybody. So I'm like, okay, wait a minute. This is not going to work. Now, here's my other thing. You want to convert basements, backyards, and things like this. You're not increasing. You're not increasing schools. So what happens? What happens to the school population? They now passed a rule or law that has lowered the class population. But now you're telling people you can now add to your home. What happens to the school population at that point? Because people are moving in with children. So you don't add on to the school. So now the school becomes overwhelmed. Again, I don't think the domino effect, all of these plans, personally, I think it's a good idea to add to your home. If you got space, add to your home. But I'm with Vivian. The amount of money you're going to have to pay a month, who's going to eat that? It's your renter. Right. It's your rentee. Your person who's renting it. So now who eats that? Because you're not going to rent. If your loan is $2,500, you pay it back. You ain't going to rent your apartment for $2,500 because then what's the point? Not only that, I'm going to go here. I don't ever want to be a landlord again. Ever want to be a landlord again. when you move people into your home, like Shanti said, you can vet them all you want. But when it comes to them being a part of your property, and now if they start cutting up, you can't put them out unless you go to court. And God forbid you got a family in there, because now if they got kids, you're not gonna want to put them out because they got the kids. And when I was renting, I would rent to single people, because my thing was, if I need to get you up out of here, it's gonna be me and you, and that's it. It's not gonna be me, you, and your family. I ain't gonna have to hear no. It's me and an adult. Bye, out. So I don't want to be interviewing. I don't want to be checking no credit. I don't want to hear your sob story when you can't pay the rent. No. So I think it's a good idea to add, if you have a reliable family member, as the ladies have said, because when you get on that opposite side, you're gonna be in trouble. But if you have a reliable family member who is going to make sure your place is kept neat, respect your property, pay the rent on time, and can I say, don't rent to your kids. That ain't gonna work. Do not rent to your children, because they're the first ones that we're talking about. Come on, Ma, I can't afford it. Come on, Ma, I had to buy this dress. Come on, Ma, I had to buy this jersey. Come on, Ma. Dad, you act like you need the money. Don't rent to your children. So this is, I don't know if this is the answer, because there's so many pros and cons but as far as being someone who rents, I have long ago said, I ain't rent no more. Whatever I got to struggle and do, I'm a struggle and do. I don't want nobody outside coming up in here. Especially strangers, no. And I haven't always had bad tenants, but it's just too much. It's too much. And no. At least even if it's somebody you can work things out. But strangers, and the way people are so vicious these days, when they leave, they mad, they're gonna leave holes in your walls, and no. That's a done deal. Done deal. Wait, do I see something here? KL says, I used to rent out a basement, had a fabulous landlord in my former life. Pastor KL was my very first tenant. And yes, I was a fabulous landlord. Thank you very much. But Pascal was my very first tenant in my home, and he was a really good tenant. So, all right. Our next topic of conversation. Wendy in Chicago, who attacked her children, stabbed over 30 times the baby of the family, 4 years old, I believe, and attacked her other 2 children, and said that the children were possessed. And they are saying that there's an issue of mental illness and cancer. Tamika's not here. Shantice, where are we going with this? Such a sad story.
It is. It is. We've been hearing so many instances lately over the past week and a half alone, about these parents stabbing their children. And it's like, I'm not trying to hear nothing about no mental health, no cancer, no nothing. They just attacked the helpless child. I don't care about their condition. How is that helping me? It didn't help the child. It didn't help the parent. And I pray, which a lot of the time that's not the case, but I pray that she never showed any signs of anything that would have put, even if it wasn't signs that she would kill the kids, but anything that would really have the family say, okay, you know what, we gonna take 1 each, or somebody gonna take over 3 or something, and you need to go get checked out or have a woosah or something. Because for you to just be sign free, and then you wake up one morning and you stabbing your children and all of that. What else did she do to them? She stabbed them and then what?
Set the house on fire.
Yeah, and now you're an arson and all. It's like, no, come on. Some part of this was a plan. Some part of this was a part of your psyche. You know, at some point, like the week prior or whatever. It's very rarely do they show no type of signs, and everyone is really taken aback, like, what? But they were such a great parent and so involved and da-da-da-da. They always show some type of signs. So I really don't like when they then start to say, well, they did suffer from such. Like, shut up. Who cares? Because if no one around them saw that and did anything, went against the grain and said, okay, you may be saying you good, the child is good, but we seeing X, Y, and Z. There've been way too many cases now with children dying at the hands of their parents for anyone to ignore. It's like everyone is a mandatory reporter at this point. Not just teachers, not just nurses and doctors. Everyone is a mandatory reporter now, because you just never know who's going to end up snapping.
Mhm.
That's so sad.
Wow. All right, Viv, what's your thought?
The same. I thought the same thing. Why were the kids left alone with her, giving her an opportunity to do what she did? Like, that is just so sad. And like, I don't know many people who have been diagnosed, but I know some people who need to be diagnosed, and they're scary. They're scary, to say the least. It's scary to be around them as an adult. Why would I leave my children alone with somebody who is showing signs of anything? If she had to be showing signs. I've never heard of somebody being schizophrenic and not showing signs of being dangerous to somebody else's well-being. So I'm along with Shantice with, there had to have been signs, and why wasn't somebody aware enough or caring enough about these kids to get them up out of that house? Whether you thought, oh, she would never hurt her children, I wouldn't leave her alone. I ain't saying like she should never see her kids again, but I would definitely never leave my kids or those kids alone with her.
Right.
Just because of the possibility that she might snap and do something.
Right.
So very rarely do you hear I'm on the fence, but I'll go back to to Serge before we move forward. Like Terrence mentioned earlier, the trauma these kids are going through is going to be devastating for them in the later years of their life. Absolutely. So here's my thought. My thought says I'm with the ladies 100%. Because if she's schizophrenic, she didn't become schizophrenic overnight. I had a grandmother who was schizophrenic, and we knew when, like, she wasn't taking her meds, when she was getting what we just generally say, she's getting sick. We would know when she was sick. You know, if this is your family member, you know the signs of when they're loose cannons, when they're unstable, when they're not doing well. Shame on you for leaving those children in her possession. Vivian said that the little boy stated that he wished the father was around, because if the father had been around, this would not have happened, pretty much. How was he able to say that? How was he able to say that? That ain't the first time.
Right.
It's not the first time. That statement alone indicates that was not the first time she has behaved in a manner where he would compare parents.
Right.
And may have even been where he said something to someone, whether it's grandma, whether it's auntie, whether it's dad. This ain't the first time. And that statement alone, I saw a little bit of the clip, and the father said, oh, the little boy said X, Y, and Z. The other side to this is, if if there is an issue of mental illness, cancer, if cancer reaches the brain, this can exacerbate a situation mentally. We don't know. See, I think a lot of times we underestimate the breakdown of the body, which is something that's not visible. So in other words, if she's already having mental illness issues, cancer hitting the brain can easily worsen what is already existing. So now that definitely fuels this behavior of violence. However, going back to what the ladies said, this ain't the first time that you've exemplified some area of instability. To think that a baby was stabbed 30 times. I don't even want to know what it was, right, to even be stabbed one time. But 30 times. And everybody's going to walk away free except for her. They're gonna arrest her, take her for evaluation, but every other adult gets to walk away. When these babies have suffered this experience, y'all saw something and you didn't say anything. Y'all saw something and you did not help the way you should have helped. My question is, where were you, Father? Get off the screen talking about what the boys said. Where were you? Where were you that you could have helped this situation? These are your babies who just experienced this here. Right. And you couldn't find me on no screen personally. Because the first thing somebody is thinking is, who was around when all of this stuff was going on? So how often did you visit the kids? How often did you have the children? How responsible were you that you left them in her care? Get off the screen. I couldn't even face a screen at this point. Disgusting. This is worse. I keep saying these children are under attack. They can't even get out of their parents' way. Forget about all the coach and the pedophile and the sex offenders around the corner. For what? For what? They can't even get out their own home. They're being killed in their own home. So what? So what? There's a sex offender that lives 3 houses down. If you in the house killing your kids, the sex offender ain't gonna get to them. So this here, there's a lot more to this that meets the eye. And if y'all can immediately ring out schizophrenia, oh, then you knew. Then you knew. Then you knew. Then you knew. You knew. You knew. Yes. And you knew. Our wild story of the day. Baltimore experienced now the lowest numbers in how many years? 22.7% drop compared to the first half of 2024, the lowest in 50 years. 50 years. 60% lower than 3 years ago. And they also have a drop in the number of crimes in several other areas. Vivian, why are we celebrating?
Because it was a black man that did it. In the mouth of Black History Year. Yes, no, but definitely these other mayors need to pay attention and take note, because if he was able to do that in such a short time, I think they said he's been there for 2 years, and he's able to drop numbers so drastically like this, they definitely need to take note. They need to pay attention, talk to this man, let him mentor you, because other places have not seen numbers like this and much longer. So good for him, good for Baltimore. Glad to hear it. Hopefully the next mayor who comes behind him will keep it going and these numbers will continue to decrease instead of increasing once he, has to leave. but definitely great news to hear. That's amazing.
All right, all right. Viv, we're about to lose you. So what do you want to leave our viewers with this morning?
Just paying attention to what's going on around you, these numbers, housing insecurity, they claiming to help us with opening up the homes and all of this. Just pay attention to what's going on around you. Make wiser decisions. I understand it's hard out here, but just try your best not to be getting yourself into any debt or into too much debt, because sometimes it's just inevitable. But just pay attention to what's going on around you, make wise decisions, and make sure you give your life to the Lord, because truly it's the only way to really survive out here. It's the only way to really survive out here. I don't know how we be making it sometimes when we look at these receipts, we look at these prices and our bills.
Right.
It's all because of God. It's all because of Jesus. So make sure you give your life to him and make wise decisions, and don't put yourself in positions that's only going to make this worse than what it already is.
Amen. 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 Thank you so much for your contribution into today's conversation, and we pray you have a blessed day.
Thank you. You too. Have a good day, ladies.
Have a good day.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Tamika, what we talking about here with Baltimore having the lowest number in crime in 50 years?
Got to be more careful when you're in BMO. I think that's a beautiful thing that, that's happening. They need to teach us a lesson. One of the things that I was thinking about is a lot of, now with everything that's going on, it's all about self. And if we go back to the Bible, whereas if anyone had a need, those that have more provide more, so that those that have less can get what they need.
Share. Right. Amen. 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 Shantice, what say you about this drastic decrease in numbers?
Well, when Vivian first started talking about it, I was like, oh, I hope these numbers and stuff are accurate, because we went through that just a few short months ago in this city, with crime has been lowered, such and such and such. Meanwhile, we were able to give 19 wow stories, all of the news content within that 1 week. So it's like, how are we able to report all this news if crime has gone down so much? That was worth you sharing with us. But to hear that there was a plan and the plan was put in place and these are the results is amazing, because again, you're dealing with multiple sets of people, but mainly two sets of people. You're dealing with the citizens, law-abiding citizens. You're dealing with the police, and already, there's a lot of friction. But to hear that is just like, okay, so there is able to be a plan put in place, and someone does have the ability to enforce it, and the people do have the ability to follow it. And now Baltimore is a less hostile place, a lot more civil, a lot more comfortable. So that is really good to hear that.
Okay. All right. I want to bring up something that crossed my mind. But before I do that, I want to read our comments. Serge says their relationship with other people, meaning the children, is not going to be good because they won't know how to interact with others. Absolutely. Will they know how to trust people, after their own mother attacked them?
Right.
Terrence says the kids knew it as well, saying it happened once the father left and they wish he was there. Absolutely, Terrence. Absolutely. Like I said, when I heard that statement, I was like, the child just gave it up. They've been watching mama. And yeah, you were negligent. You were negligent. Serge says, yep, Terrence, because these kids are very observant when it comes to their parents. Absolutely. Absolutely. Thank you, guys. So I started thinking of two things. One, The Corner, and one, The Wire. Now, for those of you who don't know, The Corner was an HBO miniseries about a family of drug addicted people who were living in Baltimore during the crack era, and how it affected them, how it affected the community, how it affected when they say the community, meaning the people, the housing, the economy, everything. And if you can stomach it, because some people are just like, things don't hit us like that. We can watch it.
Right.
But if you can, if you want to get a snapshot as to what they're referring to when they say it's been the lowest in 50 years, then you may want to look at that to get an idea. Now, during that time, crime was heavy because, again, it's the crack era. So, they were notorious for stealing and all kinds of things. Then I thought of The Wire, which was a spinoff of a long-term series that, again, was HBO. And these two stories were written by a detective. And they went in and they just followed the lives of these people here. I think his name was McCullough. What's his first name, Shantice? Andre McCullough was the main character in the storyline, and that there is depicting his mom and depicting his dad, and the mother and father were both on drugs, and the father was a heroin addict and the mother was a crack addict, and her family were all drug addicts. This was a true story. And when you have a family, and remember now, they connect with those who are like-minded, that's what they showed. And the community showed. Am I right, Shantice? The community depicted
drastically. You got a real feel for how Baltimore looks and how it is.
Right. And thank you for the picture.
You're welcome.
And when he did the spinoff of The Wire, was a group of detectives who were trying to stop the drugs, because again, it's very heavy at that time. And they set up a series of wiretaps, and that's how they were able to get to the criminals, to the drug organization. And again, they showed you the lifestyles of these people, and these were true stories. This was not fictitious, it was true. So when you look at those two series, and if you've seen anything else, Tamika talked about Be More Careful. That was a hood book that was written about living in Baltimore.
Mm-hmm.
And when you look at these things, now when you hear that Baltimore is at a 50-year low, it's come a long way. This is nothing to sneeze at if these numbers are accurate. So like Shanti said, we're just trusting that these numbers are true. They're not, because we just got finished going through that. Like she said, Vivian gave us this, these statistics, only to find out that she got new statistics that said this stuff was fake. And when we went in the circle, we questioned it. We were like, well, wait a minute, how are we hearing all of these things if this is, at a record low? Right. And sure enough, it came back to be fake. So Shantice, when you think of, let's say, The Wire and The Corner, and you remember, because I'm going to tell you something, when you look at these two shows, you don't forget. You do not forget this stuff is kind of etched in your head, and you say to yourself, "Did people really live like this?" What's your thought when you think of it then and now? Because we're only talking about that period. We're not talking about back in the 60s. We're not talking about in the 70s. Because if they're saying it's a 50-year low, that means that 75 until now is what they're talking about. Because that's 50 years.
It's, again, once you watch those series, you become so invested in in that city, and especially if you go there in person, it's almost like, you know, I just went to Baltimore for the first time, from what I know, a couple of years ago, last year, whatever it was recent. But
No, Memorial Day.
Right, but before then, it was last year.
Oh, okay.
Last year, right? But you know, The Wire and The Corner, those are old series, so you're really adjusted to how it looks according to the series. And then being out there and driving around, it's almost like it's like one side of the block looks like The Corner, The Wire, and the other side of the block, literally not even the next block. Like this side of the street looks like The Wire, and this side of the street looks like Beverly Hills. And then when you go into the next block, it's almost like the same thing. So, you know, you really get to see the drastic change in even the immediate areas. So to hear that the crime has went down means that they've been doing some physical cleaning up, that the aesthetics are looking better than what they used to look. And like Pastor Steph said, we were just out there a couple of months ago, and it didn't look horrific, but there could still be a whole lot of work done. So it's like, dag, if it looks like this now, and then y'all talk about y'all done clean up crime, what did it look like so that means and of course, you know, we were watching animated series, so it looked like what we were watching on TV. But it's like, wow, that means it was really, really looking like that when crime was at an all-time high. So it really goes to show, again, like Vivian said, the work that was put in, the commitment that was made. Like, we're going to clean this city up, because I can guarantee you the babies, the children were on their mind. Like, we cannot have these kids, because in those series, you had kids who ended up becoming addicted to drugs. Like, it wasn't only the adults. They were teenagers, they were kids who ended up using heroin and all that. And it's like, well, what else is there to really do after a while? If you're not really focused and driven, you become subjected to your surroundings. So again, it's really admirable to hear that, and they were able to get a little more specific with the statistics and the numbers now, versus when we got the report for over here. But yeah, just praying that they.
I want to touch on something. I'm going to stop you right there. I'm going to stop you right there, because I'm going to touch on something. I want you to pull up a picture for me. Is the mayor on our side of the fence? Did Vivian say that?
If she did, I missed it.
So you do the research really quickly for me, please.
Okay.
One of the things, and I want to stop Shantice because I wanted to talk about that. One of the things that was key, and I want to go back to something she said. In both series, they had a terminology they used called the vacants. VACANTS, the vacants. And what they were referring to was the rows of homes that were vacant.
Mm-hmm.
There were so many vacant homes because of the trodden living, because of the drug usage, because of the homelessness. There were so many vacant homes, and they were row homes, that it had a name called the vacants. And that's where, and I don't know if a lot of you even realize, but that helps to bring down the mentality of the community. You can't thrive in that. And when they would show the rows of homes, the vacants, it was just like that was the look of Baltimore.
Right.
Not the look of Maryland. It was the look of Baltimore. They did not show you anything that did not have the vacants in the background. The only thing that did not have the vacants in the background. Okay, all right. I thought that's who I saw in the news a few weeks ago, which is why I wanted you to pull. He is, and that was the caption. Like, he's, I think, one of the youngest mayors, but he was accomplishing so much. And I'm gonna try to pull it up tomorrow. But I remember a couple of weeks ago, if not a month ago, I saw. That's why I was like, well, did you see? Because I'm trying to remember which popular city this young mayor had taken over, and they said had created such a stir of change. And I want to, we got a few minutes, and I want to talk about this before I move on. So the vacants are what that was the picturesque of what you saw. The only other thing that you didn't see when you saw the vacants was the projects.
Right.
And they called the projects the low risers. And this stuff is like etched in your. They called it the low risers because they were short project buildings. So those were the terminologies that was used. So when we went to Baltimore, that was what we were looking for. That's what we were expecting. Now, Shantice was very generous when she said on one side of the street were the vacants, and on the other side of the street looked like Beverly Hills. No, there were blocks where you had the row of homes, and you had 5 good homes, and in between you had 2 or 3 vacants still left.
Yes.
We had 2 homes.
Yes.
We had, remember that? And I said to the person we were there to see, I was like, wow, we were expecting, this. And he said, Steph, there's still a lot of that. He said, we just happen to be driving through a part where they're working on. And that's why you see the vacant buildings kind of stuck in between all the good brand new buildings and businesses, because some of and they look like brownstones, if you will, like lower level brownstones, because our brownstones here in New York are tall, because most of them are 3 levels, well, theirs are only like 2 levels, so they're shorter. But that's so that they're working diligently. Now, here's why I wanted the picture also. I'm sorry, but in order to fix up the hood, you need hood. And I'll say why. And you may not agree, and I'll be fine with that. When you come in and you have someone from the other side of the fence, all they know is what they want it to look like, which is what Harlem is going through now. All they wanted to do was revitalize Harlem. All the people on the other side of the fence are there. They didn't care anything about the residents who were already there. What they needed, how were they going to turn this around? Because these people had invested in Harlem, the Black people. These people had suffered the loss from the drug epidemic and the declining of the community. So you come in, you want to revitalize Harlem, you want to put all the Black people out, and you want to move all the white people in. Why I say you need a person who's from the hood, because see, they're going to get to the nucleus of the situation. And I'm going to stop right there, Shantice, and I'm going to let you take this over.
Absolutely, because again, you can't come and give a solution and you don't understand what the true problem is. So you're coming in to sprinkle some Band-Aids around. Band-Aids don't last but for a certain amount of time. And if you're still too rough, a bit like put a Band-Aid on a kid who goes right back outside and plays on the block. That Band-Aid is gone within like the next 5 minutes. No, you have to understand the foundation of the problem. That's why you have to be hood. You have to have be able to tap into your hood mentality, your hood psyche. And if you see like, okay, so we need to clean up that corner. You know what we're going to do? We're going to just have a sweep there every day at 3 o'clock. First of all, you can't plan the sweep. Okay? The sweep has to be random. Why? Because you got some of them who come out as soon as the sunrise. You got some of them that come out after noon. You got, like, it has to be random. It can't be every day. It can't be the same day every week, because you have to understand the mentality of the people who come and hang at this corner. What are they doing at this corner? Are they selling weed? Well, then we need to attack them a different way. Are they just here? Are they only smoking the weed? We got to attack them a different way. Are these just old heads who just sit here? We're going to have to approach them a different way. Like, but when you don't have the ability to tap into the psyche of the area you claim you want to clean. And this is why a lot of the times it just shows that all of this is just for show. Because if you are the mayor, but yet you don't have, I don't understand how you're the mayor and you don't know the area, but okay. But hence our mayor. You then tap into, kick your pride to the side and get you a team that understands what's going on. There's no shame in that. The leader, just because you're the leader doesn't mean you know everything. You may just be the best at structuring and, you know, organizing and understanding who's strong at what, and, you know, what's the word I'm looking for? Starting on the tip of my tongue, Pastor Steph. Delegating. You may be great at delegating. You know, you do this, you do that, you do that, you do that. There's someone who has to do that. Maybe you're just good at that, but because I'm the mayor or I'm the whomever and I'm going to do this, no, you have to understand. If you don't understand, this is why God is God. And this is why God always gets the job done, because he understands what that thing is that needs to be attacked. Unless you do that, it is going to continue to be surface work that keeps getting overturned each and every time.
Absolutely. You know, we talked about the two shows. We talked about The Corner, which spoke specifically to that family, to that neighborhood, to that community. And then the spinoff was, as the detective, he wrote about the inner workings of the police department and how they wanted to clean up the crime. Well, they took people who understood the community. The police department were people who understood the community, who were from the community, who had been raised in the community to fight. They used those people to fight the crime. And here we are, utilizing their skill, their expertise, their know, and they even were able to pull in some young guys, you know, early 20s, you know, who looked hood, who could go in and blend in to the sellers with the other dealers, and they weren't so noticeable because, of course, you bring the wrong color through, the people are gonna know who you are. But they used that skill set of what they knew. They used the skill of those who understood the community. And by this being a young kid here in this mayoral seat, he could get in to Baltimore, which is a Black community, and their plight as to what is that exactly is going on. Do we have teenage pregnancies? Do we have a failing school system? Do we have crime? Do we have drug use? Do we have high prices for food? Do we have low prices for food but low quality of food? See, all of these things matter when you're talking about going into a community and fixing up the community. You can't just come in and put expensive prices in a grocery store, and yet you got all the homes are vacant, and those who are living in the homes that are not vacant are on public assistance, unemployment, or have no income at all. These are the things that you have to consider when you're going in. And this is probably why it's been at an all-time, it is at an all-time low, because see, you've got to get in from the inside,
Right.
and work from the inside out. You cannot work. And what I'm noticing is a lot of these places that don't have a black mayor or black people in charge, all you see is the grandiose souls. That's all you see. That's all you see is, we put up a Burlington, and we put up, a this store, and they putting up all these malls, all of these things.
All the places the community can rob.
Right. And then you have to lock up the freezer because the community is, we have a Dollar General, and their cabinets, their freezers are locked. And we're like, yo, what in the world? I can't reach for milk. It's like, what? I don't buy milk from there, but that's what's behind the locked cabinet. And they said that the reason why they had to lock it is because recently they put up a rehab at a halfway house, and they go for community walks, which I knew. And when they go out for community walks, that's their opportunity to take those guys shopping. And some of those guys have money enough. From what I understand, the only way you would go to the store is you had to produce money. So in other words, your family gave you money, and you would have money, and you would go out to get your little goodies and stuff like that, or your toiletries, or whatever the situation is. Well, they don't only allow them to go, but they allow everybody to go. So you got those who are window shopping, and you got those who are trolley shopping. So now they had to lock up everything. And I was in one Dollar Tree, and I heard the manager directing one of the workers to fill up the freezer with some stuff. And he was like, the person who was working, she was like, well, we're filling up. Every time I fill it up, you tell me to fill it up, but the other one tells me to do such and such a thing. And he explained, and I overheard him saying, yeah, because they're coming through here and they're stealing the stuff. So we're trying to give it a balance where, like, during a certain part of the day, they don't lock it up, and the other part of the day they keep it locked. Well, that must be during the time, Shantice and viewers, when people coming through, so we know they have their walk at 3:00. So we lock it at 3:00. It's like, yo, so that's what they do. They put up all of this beauty and it attracts, but they haven't worked on the inner part of what needs to be done. What do you have to say, Shantice, on your way out of here today?
Meanwhile, mind you, viewers, the Dollar General is across the street from a daycare center. The brains that do not get put in to make these decisions is just amazing to me. Because that was my first concern. While y'all worried about locking up ice cream bars, they're right across the street from Toddlers. Okay? All right. Well, on my way out, goodness gracious, just making sure that everyone is doing their part. Whether you're talking about these homes that are on the market with these astronomical prices, or even with the crime going down on a plan that was actually put into effect and has some great results. If everyone focuses on doing their part, the world will be a much better place with less hostile situations, and we would all be walking around happy, joyful, being able to go get ice cream any time of the day without having to ask someone to take the handcuffs off. Because I had to ask them to take the handcuffs. I needed detergent, Pastor Steph, and I said, I'm not walking all the way up to this register. So I went to the corner of the aisle. I said, excuse me, can someone come and take the handcuffs up off the detergent, please? And they were like, did she just say handcuffs? Yes. I'm not about to walk up there and whisper this. Okay? No, this ain't no secret. Because obviously, because everybody who come in here can see it. So if everyone does their part, then it would really just make for more affordable homes, better living conditions, and just more peace, just because even when you're talking about buying a home, Pastor Steph, like how, back in your day when, it's like, oh, I'm, in my 20s or something, I want to buy a home. There was some excitement. Ain't no excitement in that. Right. When I'm going to end up being more broke than what it was, because just thinking about buying a home is costing me money, just the thought of it, so we really have to, if everyone just puts their mind towards how can I help to make this process or this situation lighter or easier, then everything overall will be a lot better. So I think everyone should focus on that.
Amen. Thank you so much for your contribution into today's conversation. We pray you have a blessed day.
You too. Thank you.
Thank you. All right. Shanti said something real key. She said something about how God does it. One of the things that I thought about, the first thing I thought about when she said that was, God works from the nucleus. Remember I said, in order to get the job done correctly, you've got to work from the inside out. Well, that's how God works. God works from the nucleus. He says, I search the heart. He's not looking at, he says, while man looks at the external, I look at the heart. And that's the way we need to attack problems. Go to the root. The only way you're going to ever deal with an issue is to go to the root. This person has authority problems, a struggle with authority. Why? They told a very interesting story about Bobby Brown, about how one of the reasons why he has a problem with authority is because he was in the home one day when he was a kid, and the police broke up in the house, in the apartment, and attacked whomever. And ever since then, he had a problem with authority. Good, bad, right, wrong, or indifferent, it exists. God searches the heart, and in order for us to get to any resolution regarding anything, whether it's a personal life, whether it's to how to make a company operate better, whether it's how to turn a community around, like this particular mayor has worked on, whether it's this housing issue for the pets, whether it's affordable housing for people, whether it's, if we're going to extend and expand and allow people to have, an extension in their home or on their property. In order to address any of these things and to come up with a resolution, we're going to have to work from the nucleus. It's the only way it'll happen. If we don't get to why, then we're never going to figure out how. And this is something that God has exemplified. And I always love this about God and Jesus. They'll never require us to do anything they have not already done. And some people, you don't look at the extended part of it. I always say the word of God is broad but narrow but broad. You can look at one scripture, and every time you look at that scripture over the course of your life, you find something different. Every time you look at this scripture, it means more and more to you. That means that the scripture is not as narrow as you think, it's broad. And this is what we need to do in order to work on our lives, what we need to do in order to work on our situations, what we need to do to work on our communities. Because what happens is, it's kind of like what Shanti said, if we all work on our own community, then the ultimate world will be a better place. If I work in my home on my children, if I work on my children and then I work on my home, and now the block does the same thing, and there's a row of 40 houses on the block, that's 40 houses that can now extend and expand to the next block and the next block and over. And when you look up, the entire community has a different look. And now that community, like Vivian said, she hopes that other mayors take a look at what he's done and take a page out of his book. And now they want their communities to look just like that. Well, he's in the city of Baltimore. In Maryland, there are so many other parts of Maryland. So if you followed the prescription of Maryland, of Baltimore, and then you kind of customize it a little bit for your particular city, then when you look around, the state of Baltimore will be better. And when another mayor looks around from Pennsylvania, then they will want to do the same thing. And it's infectious. Everything is infectious, whether it's good or whether it's bad. How do you think Baltimore got as bad as it was? It didn't just blow up. It was infectious because they kept expanding the bad behavior, the drug usage. It just, and therefore Baltimore became what it was. Well, that's the same way the cleanup got done. Addressing each thing got Baltimore to a better look, to a better lifestyle, to be a better community. That's the way your life can be. If you try Jesus, just try. I always say to people, what do you have to lose? Some people are really against God. They are really against trying God. And I'm saying to myself, where do you think all this good stuff comes from? The Bible tells us that all good and perfect gifts come from God. Where do you think that came from? And it's coming from a God that is looking at you in your sinful ways, but who is still blessing you. The word of God says that we are blessed, whether we are the just or the unjust. God blesses both sides. So when you're out here and you're gallivanting in the world and life is grand, go back. Go to God and give him thanks, not just with your mouth, but with your lifestyle. If things are just horrendous in your life, you just can't figure out what in the world, what am I going to do? Try Jesus. Because you can only go up from there. That is infectious. Because if you tried Jesus, whether you were rich or whether you were poor, everybody around you would watch you and see you. And if you think you got it good now, then sprinkle a little Jesus on that thing and watch it grow. And people will look at you and wonder, well, how did they get all of that? If you are on the other side, where things are just horrific in your life, and you just can't seem to do nothing, and you ain't prospering, you ain't nothing, then when you give your life to Christ and it eventually begins to pick up, you will have people look at you and wonder, how did they get there? It's infectious. So help to be that infectious individual for your family, for all your friends and loved ones, and your community. Because in actuality, it's not contained there. It becomes infectious to the world. It has that domino effect, and be a part of that domino effect. Don't allow yourself to be sucked in to a lifestyle where Jesus can't be seen in you, because that's all he wants. He wants you to give him your life so that he can bless you, put you up on a pedestal and say, this is what I've done. Me, God, this is what I've done. I can do the same for you. You've been watching It's Due Time with Pastor Steph. Join us Monday through Friday from 7 a.m. to 9 a.m. where we discuss matters of the heart, mind, and spirit. As you go through your day, be sure to set your mind on things that are above, not on things that are on the earth. They will only serve as a distraction. Remember, prayer changes things. It's Pastor Steph signing off, and I want to thank my Due Time crew, the ladies who always come through big time. Thank you for hanging out with us and keeping that chat room alive. Please do not miss this opportunity to give Christ your life right now. Please do not miss this opportunity to strengthen that relationship with the Lord right now, because later is not promised to any of us. Don't forget, you can get your Breaking the Yoke Women's Conference merchandise. The t-shirts are $30. If you purchase the ticket, they are $25. So we would love for you to be walking around with the Breaking the Yoke Women's Conference shirt on. And it looks great. The job was very well done. Until tomorrow, God spares, I love